Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 1 of the Cedar Arrows Podcast. My name is Rebecca, and I live on a small homestead in Alabama with my husband and our 6 children, and we raise cows, pigs, goats, chickens, and honeybees. I am a Christian, a military wife, a homeschooling mama, a knitter, a reader, a tea drinker, and a lover of beauty and peace and home. I chose to call this podcast Cedar Arrows because that is actually the name of our homestead, Cedar Arrows Homestead. We have several varieties of cedar trees on our property, and they are just so beautiful. And the arrows is a reference to Psalm 127, verse 4, which says, "As arrows in the hand of a mighty man, so are the children of his youth." And we have a lot of children around here. So we are always striving to aim our children toward God and to use our home, and I hope to use this little corner of the internet to glorify Him and to spread beauty into the world. I think this will primarily be a knitting podcast. I will probably also share things about life on the homestead. I'm just going to see where it takes me. But I learned to knit about 10 years ago. At the time, I had a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, and my oldest was almost 5. So, why not take on another thing, right? I had been crocheting for years, but I suddenly was just bitten by this bug. I needed to learn to knit. I didn't know anyone nearby who could teach me to knit. I knew very few people at all who knit. And on a whim, I bought a kit from Joanne Crafts and a little learn to knit kit. It had needles and a book, and with the help of that book and YouTube videos, I stumbled through and learned how to knit, and I have never looked back. I love it so much. I have yarn in my hands many times a day. I knit everywhere I go. People know me by my knitting. It makes my day when somebody says, "I saw this yarn or this pattern or this yarn shop and I thought of you." People will send me pictures from their vacations when they stumble across yarn shops. It just thrills me. So a lot of my real life friends and family, I am the person they know who knits. And I have been so blessed by the online knitting community. I have made some truly beautiful friends, and I have learned so much from podcasters and pattern designers and people who are willing to answer emails from me and share their knowledge of knitting. And I'm just so thrilled to be a part of this community, and I thought it would just be fun to add to it. So we'll just see where this takes us. I'm going to pretend for now that I know what I'm doing and that it's totally normal that I'm sitting here and talking to my phone, and I hope that you will find something here that you enjoy. Excuse me. So first, I thought we would talk about what I'm wearing. Excuse me. This is the Star Shower Cowl by Hillary Smith Callis. It is my most worn knit by far, I think. It is one of my favorite things that I have made. It has some really interesting stitch patterning and texture, and I love the little plain stockinette rows too. It's just so pretty. I knit this several years ago out of Hey Sister Yarn Co. yarn. They are no longer dyeing, unfortunately, but this was my favorite colorway that they made. I think it was called Drizzle. Anyway, I love this. People comment on it anytime I go anywhere. People notice it. It is just beautiful, I think, across the board. It's just a lovely piece. I've actually been thinking lately that I should knit another one in another color because it's just a fun knit. But all of Hillary Smith Callis's patterns they are all lovely. I've knit several of them more than once. Some of my favorite gift patterns to give to people I love, especially the cowls. They're not fussy. Sometimes a shawl can be fussy. It can come unwrapped, and I love that I can just put a cowl on and not worry about it. So definitely my most worn knit, one of my favorites, and I would highly recommend this pattern. So now I guess we'll talk about whips. When I learned to knit, I was a very monogamous knitter. Of course, it took more focus to remember the steps and what I needed to do next and that kind of thing. So I would really focus on one project at a time, and then over time I realized, when I became kind of obsessed about it, I realized I needed something for any mood, for any circumstance, you know. I just wanted to be able to pick something up and knit no matter what. You know, if I was having a conversation or watching TV or in a car or at an airport. And so now I always have multiple whips. I always have something in my purse. I always have some projects at home that take more attention. And I love that whatever my mood is, I can pick something up and knit. So my first whip today, that I've been working on today, is the Light as a Feather hat. This pattern is by Katie Harrod from Songbird Handmade. This is the second time I've made this pattern, and I really, really like it. It is a pretty simple stitch pattern. It's very easy to read the knitting itself. I don't have to really refer back to the pattern once I get going. It's very intuitive, but it's also, to me, it's a little more interesting than just round and round and round plain stockinette. Which, don't get me wrong, sometimes I need that too. But I really like this. It's a nice stretchy, it's got a lot of purling in it, and so it's a stretchy open fabric, which I like. I have a large head. I have a hard time fitting hats to my head. I also have usually a very small gauge, and so I have a hard time knitting myself a hat that will fit me well, and this is kind of the perfect pattern for me. It's very stretchy, very comfortable, very cute. It has a folded brim, and I've decided just to save a little bit of the adjusting when the brim comes, you know, they kind of slip and you have to mess with them some of the time. So I decided to knit the two layers together. So when I folded the brim, I folded it in and then knit the two together, almost like a 3-needle bind off. And I just think it makes it so nice and neat, and you don't have to fiddle with it. You just put it on. And I'm really thrilled with it. This has been a very pleasant, kind of soothing project to work on. This yarn is also unavailable, unfortunately. This was dyed by Artistic Lily. Ellie had some amazing colorways. I loved knitting with her yarn. And when she recently had to close her shop, I went and grabbed like one more last skein from her shop. And this is my last skein of her yarn. This is called Romantic. The color isn't showing well, but it's kind of a mint green. And I really like it. It's so pretty. So I would highly recommend this pattern as well. I'm knitting it on 16-inch. This is my favorite way to knit hats. Just a 16-inch cable. You can just go round and round and round and no worry about adjusting for magic loop or DPNs. I'm knitting this hat on size 6 needles. I think, like I mentioned, I have a small gauge. I think the pattern calls for something a little smaller. I don't really remember, but this works for me. So I'm really enjoying this, and I think I'll be knitting a lot on this weekend, I think. So I think it will probably be done pretty soon. It is living in this cute little bag. I love this bag. I got this, it's kind of dingy, so sorry, but I got this from the Ginger U. She is on Etsy and Instagram, and she makes beautiful bags. But I absolutely love Peter Pan, so when I saw this, I grabbed it up. My next whip that I wanted to share is in this bag by This Handmade Life. I love everything Olivia does. I feel like I want to be her BFF. I hope she doesn't feel like I stalk her. But her fabric choices are always my favorites. Her knitting designs are amazing. Definitely check her out if you haven't. She is just a lovely person. But this pattern is the Campside Shawl by Alicia Plummer. I'm knitting it in Knit Picks Gloss DK. I think this is the first time I've knit with this yarn, and I'm really pleased with it. It is so soft and smooth and has great stitch definition. I'm really, really enjoying it. This pattern is one of those that's perfect for reading aloud with the kids. It's, you know, the eyelets are easy to make, and there's a lot of just plain stockinette knitting, so I'm really enjoying this. I can't wait to wear it and snuggle up with it. It's going to be so lovely. This pattern has been on my radar for a long time. I have wanted to knit it for years and just never did get around to it, but then I saw her Instagram post a couple of, I don't know, a few weeks ago, and heard about her knit along for using her patterns this fall, and so I immediately grabbed yarn out of my stash and swatched, and I am loving this pattern. It hasn't gotten a lot of attention the last week or so because a lot of my knitting time this time of year is spent on gift knitting, but this is just a delightful, if I'm just needing something really soothing, it's a perfect project to pick up and just knit a couple of rows, and it's just very rhythmic. I love it. So I have another whip that I'd like to share that is one that was on my list for a long time, and I'm finally getting around to it, and I'm loving it just as much. This one is the Winter Honey Shawl by Andrea Mowry. It is so squishy and just lovely. I'm on the border, which is the larger honeycomb pattern. I'm actually almost done. I think I only have 10 or 12 rows left. Of course, each row takes forever at this point, but oh, it's worth it. All last winter, I wished that I had this shawl. I had priced it in the autumn, and I didn't really want to spend the money on the yarn right then. And then all winter long, I regretted that choice because I wanted it just to wrap up in. I mean, it's going to be just like a big warm hug. So I do a lot of just running outside to help children with chores or check animals, or, you know, it gets cold here, believe it or not. And so I thought it would be just lovely to have a big oversized shawl to really wrap up in. So I am so excited to have this. I talked myself into ordering the yarn in time for a birthday cast on in April, and I thought that would give me enough time to work on it kind of slowly through the summer and the autumn and have it for this winter. So I am very excited. I'm almost there with this one, and I can't wait. It has been a really nice knit. It is kind of slow that, you know, it's fully cabled, and so it is kind of slow. But I'm such a process knitter, I don't mind. It's just delicious. And I've got it in this basket, which I don't know. I just love baskets. It's just kind of a homey thing. I just love it. So I'm excited to have that this winter, and I know it's going to just be something I'm going to use all the time. I have just a couple of other things that I've been working on lately. This one has kind of been put on the back burner because of gift knitting. I'm really trying to get those 2 shawls done, so that on top of gifts, I'm kind of getting a little overwhelmed. But this one is one that I'm not working on much right now, but I wanted to share it because I'm just excited about it. If you follow me on social media, you know that I have a book club with my children. My girls and I have a book club, and we meet once a week and discuss our book and have tea, and then the boys and I are reading a different book, and we also have tea once a week. And I just thought that this would be a nice thing for our tea times to make, you know, a pretty thing to put on the table. So this is the Rachel's Table Runner pattern from the Green Gables Knits book by Joanna Johnson. It's got just a pretty simple lace down the sides, and it will be on each end, and then just a lovely stockinette body. It's a really nice light cotton linen blend. It's really nice for working on in the summer. So I don't know if I don't know how soon this one will get finished, but it's just fun to work on. So the pattern is from this book, which if you are like me and you love the things I love, you should check out this book. It is beautiful, and the patterns are lovely, and I highly recommend it. One last whip to share is, this is for me, and I don't know when the last time was I stitched on it because gift knitting, but I'm really enjoying it, and when they get finished, I will love wearing them. This is the Hermione's Everyday Sock pattern in the Woodland Shenanigans colorway. My little fox is turned around. This is the Woodland Shenanigans colorway by Legacy Fiber Arts. It's so pretty. I love these. It's kind of like the early morning sky, what the pink makes me think of, and then it's got greens and grays and browns, just very earthy and beautiful. So I'm really enjoying this. I think it's going to make a lovely pair of socks. I got their micro sock set, which I've never knit socks from a micro sock set before, but I think the yardage will be fine, so I'm kind of excited to play around with that. It's just so nice. So this is one that I keep in my purse, and if I'm out and about and don't have one of my gift knits with me, then I'll work on it around here and there, but it's not getting much love lately. Of course, I've always got, this time of year, like I said, I've got things on the go for children and their friends, and so lots of knitting going on. I tend to have certain things I can only work on around certain people at certain times, so that's a little bit crazy, but I love it, and I love being able to share the things that I make. That's part of the joy for me. I love making the thing, and then I love giving it to someone that I love. So I'm having a lot of fun with the gift knits this year, even though I can't show them. So those are the whips that I have right now. Before I finish up, I wanted to share just a couple of other things I've really been enjoying lately. So as I mentioned, I'm a reader, and I love a good, slow, contemplative, deep story. Things are really busy here at my house. I don't really need to seek out action because there's a lot of activity around here. So excuse me, I find that I really want something that is kind of slow and methodical and really makes me think, or just that's a soothing, nice story. And in the last year or so, I have found Wendell Berry, and I just love his books. I don't know if you're familiar with Sarah Clarkson. She's a Christian author, and I love her. I love following her on social media and reading her writing, and she loves Wendell Berry, and so I thought, well, I need to try him out, but he's not that common, like, well known. I couldn't find, my library didn't have anything. I couldn't find any of his work, and a new bookstore opened up in my town last year, and she had some Wendell Berry, so I have very happily fallen down this rabbit hole, working my way through his Port William series, and it's just like meeting up with an old friend. I am so enjoying his books. His writing is just very true to life. It's very simple, but still somehow poetic. It's not flowery or ostentatious, but it's just flows beautifully. He writes a beautiful story. And then one other book that I have been loving so much this past week is Seasonal Slow Knitting by Hannah Thiessen. I have had my eye on this book since before it was published. I knew it was going to be beautiful. I knew I wanted to read it, but I didn't actually get my hands on it until this week. I finally got my copy, and I am enjoying it so much. It is just beautiful. The photographs are beautiful. It's nice essays, and there's patterns, and this has been kind of my go-to in the mornings. I like to get up early and just have some quiet before my children are all awake, and I usually do my Bible study then, and then some other kind of reading, and this has been the thing I have gone to this week in the early mornings. I'll knit and have some tea and just savor this book. If you like this kind of thing, this will be your thing. It is so beautiful. So her first book, which is just called Slow Knitting, is on my Christmas wish list on Amazon, and I keep telling my husband, no, for real, give me that book. So check it out, it's beautiful. I think that's all I had to talk about today. I'm really excited to see where this takes me. I hope that you've enjoyed this. Hopefully over time this is something that I'll be a little smoother at, but I'm really excited to kind of put myself out there and see where it goes. I hope that you will follow along for the ride. I hope you have enjoyed being here and visiting with me, and I would love to hear from you. Until next time, have a great day.